Male pattern baldness. It's a fact of life, and some men embrace it, other men try to hide it. We've all seen the bad comb-over, a la Donald Trump, but not all hair restoration projects have to end in disaster. In fact, a new procedure developed by two Vancouver-based doctors has balding men flocking here from all over the world.
That's what I looked like before. About 5 years ago, I first came in as a patient. I had two procedures with a clinic on the East Coast, and it didn't turn out so well. It was the older technology with the grafts, or the hair that was placed in was much thicker, had more hairs placed at one time in just a small spot, what we call a graft.
Probably the biggest misconception with hair restoration surgery is that it looks pluggy and people call it plug surgery. With our new techniques, your hairdresser won't be able to detect the fact that you've had hair transplantation. And in fact, those people with old plugs make up a large proportion of our surgeries.
So after 5 years, this is what it looks like now. I have a lot more hair, and certainly something that gives me a lot more confidence. I can pull it, run my hands through it, cut it, highlight it, whatever. I mean, it is my own hair, and it continues to act like as if I never lost it.
The difference between the old plugs and modern techniques of hair restoration is the way that the hairs are moved. With the old plugs, there may be 40, 50 hairs in each plug, and that plug is inserted directly into the scalp. It can't look natural. With today's techniques, we move 1, 2, 3 hairs at a time, and those are really carefully placed so that they mimic nature.
While they're doing a hair transplant, they're taking some of the hair from the back of my head, and they're moving some of that to the front of my head, where I've had some hair loss.
With men, there's usually a surplus of hair on the side and in the back, and we can remove about half of all the hair that they have on the sides and the back without there being any noticeable difference. That hair has been removed and passed on to the technicians that you see around us, who are using microscopes to dissect it into small grafts which just contain somewhere between 1 and 3 hairs. Our body produces a natural kind of tissue glue which holds the grafts in place, and within about 5 days those grafts can't even be pulled out. The direction that the incision is made will determine the final direction that the hair grows out at. We're really careful that everything is done correctly, or the patient will have a hard time styling their hair.
Feeling no pain. It's a little bit numb, kind of similar to if you go to the dentist. Well, I'm from San Diego, and a couple of the consultations that I had were in San Diego. So obviously I could have stayed there to do it, but I think that this particular operation is superior to anything that they have in San Diego.
About 25% of our patients are Canadians, and the remaining 75% would be from the US, and lots of patients from Europe and Asia. On average, the procedure would cost between $10,000 and $15,000. Women can have this procedure. I would say women in total make up about 10% of our patients.
I think that the procedures and the methods to do it have come so far now, and Hasson Wong has perfected the technique enough that I think it'll turn out really well for me. I'm looking forward to it.
You have really thin hair, or even worse, a bad hair transplant. Your worst enemies are wind, rain, reflections in windows walking downtown, what have you, and you're always constantly reminded of it. And the only reminder I have now is every morning, and that I'm not reminded of the bad work. I have a lot of hair now, and I really love it. It's fantastic.